Call to order the City Council regular meeting of the City of Wyoming, Minnesota, July 2nd, 2024. Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum. Member Luker, Member Onstead, Member Schilling, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is the open forum. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are or are not currently on the agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. Do we have anybody here tonight that would like to speak open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 1, approval of minutes. Number 1, consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for June 18th, 2024. If there are no comments or questions, do we have a motion to approve?
So
Motion to approve by Member Luker. Do we have a second by Member Onstead? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 2, consider approving the minutes of the work session meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for June 18th, 2024. If there are no questions, or changes, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Luker. Do we have a second? Second by Member Onstead. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We'll move on to the schedule of the public hearing, which is number 3, to consider a public hearing and approve an interim ordinance of the City of Wyoming, Chisago County, Minnesota, extending the interim ordinance 2003-03, prohibition on the operation of hemp businesses in the city under Minnesota State Statute 462.355, subdivision 4, for an additional 120 days. Mr. Linwood?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Through the Minnesota State Legislature this year, there was enacted Statute 342.13 that addresses the regulation of hemp within city jurisdictions. It restricts cities from prohibiting hemp businesses, but we, however, still have the ability in either our zoning authority or to continue an extension of moratorium to not allow that. So on July 18th, 2023, the City Council enacted a moratorium on such hemp businesses in regards to why we work through zoning for them, but that is set to expire this year. But the new moratorium that we would be having a public hearing on tonight and asking the council adopt would essentially not allow for those to go forward. During the 2024 legislative session, it was changed where essentially they will be automatically allowed if the city does not take action, as we're asking the council to do tonight. So essentially we have 2 options, would be to continue that moratorium for 120 days as the existing that we have, or to adopt a zoning ordinance. We don't have a zoning ordinance ready for this. There, just recently for the council awareness last week, the Office of Cannabis Management did come out with draft zoning, or I should say draft ordinance regarding cannabis and things involved with cannabis. So staff will be looking at that. Mr. Weck and I begun to have some conversations. We'll probably have that back to the Planning Commission as well to start doing the diligence as we still have these moratoriums in place. That being said, tonight we are asking the council to continue to extend that moratorium on hemp-placed businesses. It was necessary that we have a public hearing between June 26th and July 11th to make sure that we comply with the statutes on this. So we are asking the council to open that public hearing and then to adopt that, to continue extending the interim ordinance 2023-03, prohibition of the operation of hemp businesses under the city, and then also we have just a summary resolution, and number 4 is just resolution 2407-67.
Okay, so we need a motion to go into the public hearing, please.
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Schilling. Do we have a second? Second by Member Onstead. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We are now in the public hearing. So do we have anybody here tonight that would like to speak on the ordinance? Seeing none, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now closed. So we'll just move on to number 4 then? Or do you need a,
You can go to the resolution, and
Okay,
then if you, if
perfect.
the council has questions, we can talk about it at that time.
great.
Still need to-
Do we need,
Okay, yeah.
we need to approve the extension?
So you would need to pass the action number 3, the ordinance
Okay.
first, and then we would also pass then the resolution for the summary publication for the
After we
ordinance.
do this.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so we need a motion to approve.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure,
Okay.
all right, yep. Member Yeager, questions?
Will 120 days be enough?
I believe so. I think that's essentially what all we're allotted
Oh,
through
we
this,
ha-
so we don't really have a choice. That is the maximum, so.
So you
again-
better have something before 120 days are up.
Correct. So we have been discussing, like I said, with kind of what I, just let the council know that the Office of Cannabis Management did finally come up with some draft ordinance. So we will be working on this from a staff standpoint, and then having it go through the planning commission process, and then eventually onto council. So you'll probably see that here, I would guess, in the coming, probably some drafts coming in the next month or two. And to
Okay.
continue that to try to make sure we're complying with the moratorium time of 120 days.
Cool, thank you.
All right,
You're
any
welcome.
other questions?
Yes.
Member Onstad?
What does the 128 days take us to?
That is an excellent question.
The new date.
The-
Does it start from today? Does it start from
It would be
January
from
13th,
publication,
July 11th?
adoption of publication, so it would be published in next Thursday's Chisago County Press, which would be the 11th. Essentially, it would take us into November.
And it should be noted that the council did already adopt a moratorium on these hemp businesses. That's set to expire, and the statute allows us to extend for an additional 120 days. So many cities are taking advantage of that extension, just given that we really haven't gotten clear guidance from the Office of Cannabis Management, which is getting off the feet, and then the league just came out with model ordinances. So this should allow us enough time. Everybody knows are operating under similar deadlines. And so our cannabis moratorium goes through the end of the year, and this one will take us, when did you say?
November,
November.
essentially.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve the, just looking here, the extension of the ordinance 2303, prohibition on the operation of hemp business. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling, a second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 4, to consider resolution 240767, a resolution adopting and approving a summary publication for interim ordinance 2303, an ordinance prohibiting the operation of hemp businesses in the city under Minnesota State Statute Section 462.355, subdivision 4, for an additional 120 days. Mr. Linwood.
Mayor, this is just essentially the summary publication, a resolution adopting that. The summary publication saves the city money when we go to publish things in the newspaper, because we can give a summary of the ordinance instead of having to publish the entirety.
Oh, sure, okay. All right, any questions? All right, we need a motion to approve resolution 240767. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second? Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Does anybody wish to pull an item from consent?
Pool number 14, please.
And poll number 11, please.
Number 14 and a number 11, so we need a motion to approve number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, and 14. Do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve by Member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 11, that was Member Luger's.
That was me.
Okay.
Yep. So in reviewing this, I can see that the application meets city ordinances. Here's my issue with this item. Chick-fil-A has a long and extremely well-documented history of discriminatory actions in employment practice based on discrimination, gender, and race, dating back to the 80s through as recently as last April. As a council member elected to represent all members of our community, I can't support an application for a business that doesn't welcome or accept all members of Wyoming. And so I would be much more comfortable reviewing this after, and this would obviously be past the application date, but or when the applicant wanted to utilize the permit. I would prefer to reconsider an application like this for Chick-fil-A until we see the impact and the effort to its DEI program.
All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all right, and then number 14.
Oh, number 14, I just noticed when we got the pricing for the next 3 years for our audit, it's gone up 8.4%. And I recall that when we approved the previous contract, 3-year contract, it was also a hefty increase, and there were a number of comments about that. And so I was wondering if, given the huge increases that they're giving us, whether this should go out for RFP.
Okay.
And just do a check on to see whether the pricing is fair or we can do better.
Okay, Mr. Linwood?
We brought before the audit to the council tonight that the increases are similar to what we saw in the last 3. There was a change as identified within the memo regarding the fire relief audit where we had seen a bit of an increase. Their new clientele, our current auditor is charging about $10,000 a year to do those. Through just discussion and negotiation, those were brought back down closer to what they've been. I know that the city councils obviously has the ability to go out for RFP at any time. The relationship that we have with Bergen, they are a very well-respected audit. They run a good audit. I know that in the past we've had an experience as the city, as the council remembers too, where we utilized a cheaper audit firm that I will not name, but it was very challenging. If you remember, you did not receive that audit in time for your packet. It went out late. And then once the night on the council meeting, you received another audit that was newly updated by the audit firm. Not to say that there aren't other auditors out there that are professional and can do a municipal audit. There are. I guess from a staff standpoint, we feel that the increases are not substantial from what we've seen in the past. So we are recommending to continue the use of Bergen KDV, but as I stated too, it's always at the council's discretion if you want to continue that or if you'd like to go out for a request for proposal.
Okay, any other questions from council? No. Seeing none, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna vote separately on each one. So number 11, to consider a mobile food unit permit for Melissa Wright of Maplewood Chick-fil-A. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by member Schilling. Do we have a second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So approved. Number 14, to consider a quote from Bergen KDV for audit services to the City of Wyoming and Wyoming Fire Relief Association for the year 2024, 25, and 26. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second? I'll make that second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Let's see, acknowledgement receipts of reports of officers, boards, commissions, and department heads. Number 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Does anybody wish to pull a report for further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Number 22, to consider resolution 240763, a resolution expressing support for the proposed use of tax increment financing for an affordable, what, did I miss
Did we
something?
skip 21, communications?
No, I said 21, did I say
Dog park?
21?
I think we had the dog park on.
Oh, the
under
communications, I'm sorry, Mr. McFarland.
Sorry.
Totally forget what I said about 22. Let's go back to 21 and Old Town Hall Park Dog Park update. Mr. McFarland.
Say that.
Honorable Mayor and members of council, this is simply a communications item to inform you that construction on the Old Town Hall Dog Park was completed and officially opened as of May 20th. Construction of the dog park was half-acre fencing to allow for that enclosed area, and then as well as a dedicated parking lot that is connected to the existing police department's parking lot. So it's at 7665 Wyoming Trail Road, Old Town Hall Dog Park, and it's officially opened as of May 20th.
So will it be open year-round?
So to answer that, I guess we're assessing it as it goes. Last we had talked, it was the idea that we'll see what winter looks like and kind of what the water retention there looks like as well.
Okay. Will we have any other amenities such as a place for people to sit? Will we have a sign that says it's dog park? Because I drove by the other day and I'm like, I don't know if anybody would know what that is, so.
Yeah, great questions. At this moment, we have not discussed that at the Park Advisory Commission. I can state we do have just a dog park rule sign that states it's a dog park, but nothing large on the side of the road that states that's what its purpose is for. But certainly open to those discussions.
Okay, well, I know it's something that our residents have been asking for, so it's exciting to finally have that. Any other questions?
No.
Seeing none, now we can move on to new business. Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Number 22, what? Am I just blowing it
No,
tonight
you're
or
not at all.
what?
No,
Okay.
this is myself. You're not blowing it.
Okay.
We do have the next two agenda items. Mr. Jared Ackman from Reuter Walton is at another municipal meeting that
Yeah.
has ran over, so, and I believe he will be here soon, but I was gonna ask the council if we could start with item number 24 and do the Duffy development first, if that would be acceptable to the council, and then we'll go back and do the Reuter, as I believe time allows, and he should be present. I know he very much wants to be here and has
Okay,
sent me a couple emails saying that he is doing his very best.
okay. And we can still keep it number 24 though, right? We're not
Correct.
gonna have to redo anything.
No.
Is that council fine with that? All right, good. I was thinking it was me, so we're all
Nope,
good.
not at all.
right. Number 24, to consider resolution 230765, a resolution expressing support for the proposed use of tax increment financing for an affordable housing project by Duffy Development Company, Inc. Mr. Linwood.
I will start. We also have Michaela Huot here from Baker Tilly, and she'll be discussing some of the analysis that was completed for this project. So both of these projects tonight, and the first being that we're discussing the Duffy Senior Apartment, this is a project that will have to go through an MHFA application process, and then if the project were to receive tax credits towards it, then we would reevaluate the project at that time and go through a formal TIF application and process. We have the city's financial analyst, Baker Tilly, has done a preliminary review based on the numbers that the developer has provided, and we did go through some of those numbers at a council presentation and workshop overview on the use of TIF and the analysis completed regarding that for the Duffy development and what that means in regards to the TIF and essentially the financing gap that they're seeing and what they're requesting from the city. So this would be a 63-unit housing senior rental unit apartment that would be located on the essentially the northeast side of the current Fairview area where they have existing Ebenezer sites. This would be going through a couple different things. The project would be evaluated at approximately $23 million. And the developers also requested a $140,000 grant from the Chisago County HRA EDA to support the Duffy development, which they have approved at this time. At this point, I'm going to give an opportunity if the developer, Mr. Duffy, is here, if there's anything that you'd like to say about the project. If not, we can probably turn the presentation over to Ms. Hood to kind of go over some of the financial aspects in the TIF.
I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Again, Michaela Hewitt with Baker Tilly. What is prepared and in your memorandum is a summary memo related to the initial tax increment revenue projections for the proposed project. I know we had conversation at the last work session regarding tax increment financing as a tool that communities commonly use to finance or to help provide financing assistance for qualifying projects. To build on the summary the summary description, it is a 63-unit senior housing project. The developer is seeking financing through Minnesota Housing to fund the project. There is a significant gap to complete the project. Again, within the memo, the total development cost is about $23 million, with construction being $17 million. And then additional costs related to acquisition, contingency, professional fees, developer fees, tax credit fees, and then financing fees. Sources of funds would include first mortgage bond financing, tax credit proceeds, Chisago County EDA funding, a deferred developer fee, and then tax increment as a request from the city. There is additional gap funding that the developer is also seeking through MHFA. At this point, the request for tax increment assistance is one of the tools that, again, communities have to provide financing for projects. The actual amount of tax increment, should it be awarded tax credits, would come at a later date with the actual application for funds. In order to use tax increment dollars for this project, it does have to be a qualified housing project, meaning that there are restrictions on the incomes of the tenants, that at least 20% of the occupants need to have incomes no greater than 50% of the area median income, or 40% of the units occupied by individuals at 60% of the area median income. As a component of providing any tax increment assistance, there would be a TIF agreement between the city and the developer that includes those requirements for ongoing certification of the income requirements for those tenants. Based on initial estimates of value, and these are high-level values based on the information on the project, but the estimated taxable value is about $11.37 million. That is projected to generate total tax increment dollars of about $782,000 over the maximum 26-year term of a housing district. Trying to understand what the present value figure of that is in today's dollars. Discount rate of 6% interest. That is $316,000 to $320,000, which is the amount, the not to exceed amount that would be in the resolution for the city council to consider. There is also included in the memo is the mix of the unit types, efficiency studio 1 and 2 bedrooms, with the estimated monthly rents and both the rent and the income limits for these projects, or excuse me, for this project and for the units. It would be 100% affordable at both the 30% and 50% rent and income limits, which would more than meet what the requirements of a housing tax increment district would be. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on tax increment financing or on the project details itself.
It's a lot of numbers. So, all right. So, questions from our council member Schilling.
I actually have no questions.
Okay, member Yeager.
I did have a question. At the work session, you said that Ebenezer would be managing the facility?
Yes, I did. They would-
Okay. Is it going, will the facility then be branded Fairview? Like, you know, how we have Meadows on Fairview, Fairview Lakes?
There'll be another name like Meadows or something like that. We haven't come up with it. But Ebenezer is going to manage it as if it's all one facility.
Okay. Thank you. The only thing I could say with this, while I support some of what's in the resolution, I can't support the use of TIF on this project. You're already going to get a tax break in the form of a very low tax rate classification. And the 26-year term of a TIF is a very long time. It'll be decades before the city receives the additional taxes generated by the improvements to the land. Meanwhile, the city's spending is going to increase. The levy is constantly increasing. You know, we heard at our budget meeting what, you know, additions we need to staff and to equipment going forward. And so it just leads me to ask, you know, when are the taxpayers going to get a break? They could sure use that tax increment in order to help defray some of the spending. And, you know, again, when are the taxpayers going to get a break? And they could really use one now, not 26 years from now. And yes, I do understand it's just intent, but I like to be upfront about
Yeah, and
what it is.
I think it is just the intent in regards to the TIF really isn't, wouldn't be a break. You're not receiving any, in regards to the taxpayers, you're not receiving, there's no taxes that we're receiving on that land other than what it's worth right now. So there really isn't any strong value on it. So that's how TIF works. Essentially, a project like this in regards to some of the city council's goals is to have a diversified housing stock and allow people to age in place within the community and not have to leave the community. So I think why we brought this project to the city council was hitting one of those goals and initiatives that the council has identified. So that simply said, yes, there potentially could be a TIF with it. This is right now just a letter of intent for that resolution, and the potential, if they did receive tax credits, to move forward with the TIF. It'd be next year if we did such.
Mr. Duffy, again, the age, who's gonna be able to rent from there? It's 55 and older or 62?
It's 55 and over. Honestly, the people living there generally are a fair amount older than that.
Yeah.
But the restriction's 55.
Okay, thank you. Member Luker, any questions?
Nope, no questions.
All right, Member Onster?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Linwood, I'm wondering if you can help me with a couple things, a couple
Sure.
questions that I have. So when you build a project of this size, obviously there's permits, there's water and sewer, there's a whole bunch of other things that go in with this, right? That, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the developer pays for that. Can you help maybe help us understand how that works?
Sure. For a development like this one,
size.
they still need the developer, even though there would be the potential the use of TIF if they were to receive the MHFA credits. The city would still receive all the normal permit fees it would on a project like this. So a 63 unit apartment building like this, at the value, there would be significant building permits. You'd see whack and sack fees. You'd see significant in our park dedication fees along with projects like this. So we still receive all those things normally if the project was just a normal market rate or commercial project.
They still have to pay that?
Correct.
So there's no break on that either?
Correct.
Okay, okay. And then I guess I'm gonna say this, I mean, having a campus in town in the city of Wyoming, you've got the hospital, you've got assisted living, memory care, you have seniors that can afford apartments, and we have also seniors that can afford housing that's, 55 and older right across the way. So this really gives us a chance. We know that a lot of seniors aren't moving out of their homes. There's good reason, tax rates and that sort of thing, but if they wanted to downsize, this could be a really good project to do that. So, and again, it's intent only. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, then we need a motion to approve Resolution 230765, a resolution expressing support for the proposed use of tax increment financing for an affordable housing project by Duffy Development Company, Inc. So I'll make the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So approved. Now, do you want us to go, where are we at?
Yeah, I think we've waited. I believe that Mr. Ackman's on the way, and I think it'll be similar in regards to, I guess, the questions you might have for Mr. Duffy in regards to this, but I think we can at least start off here.
Okay, so we're on 22.
Yes.
Agenda item 22?
Yes.
Okay, so 22, to consider resolution 240763, a resolution expressing support for the proposed use of tax increment financing for an affordable housing product by Reuter Walton Development LLC.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This project, a secondary project we'll review tonight, this is similar in regards to the MHFA application, and we'll be asking the council to pass a resolution of support for support for a potential TIF district if the project did receive that MHFA financing. So there's two different resolutions to review tonight. That first one is that indicated support from Reuter Walton for the 72-unit affordable housing project. This really comes down to, as we look at it too, it's a workforce housing project. That's one thing as we continue to discuss things with our businesses within the existing industrial park and ones that are potentially looking at expansion. That's one thing that's always a challenge in regards for, they talk about some of the things, the challenges when we have, starter homes. Obviously, that's a wicked problem, not only in the city of Wyoming, throughout the state and throughout the country. Something that they talk about is housing availability for those workers. So not only, like I said, to continue staffing on that within the industrial park, and then for potential expansions. We do have a couple businesses that we are talking about some significant expansions right now. With that said, this is a piece of it in regards to have that within our community. Once again, this gives us a variety of that housing stock. So tonight, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Hewitt in a second here to kind of go through some of the financials on this, but again, this would be essentially that same thing where it's a little different pool from the MHFA, but you would just be adopting that resolution of support. The second resolution is a resolution that the Chisago County HRA EDA Housing Trust Fund has awarded them a $200,000 loan for the project at a 1% interest rate over 20 years, contingent on the City of Wyoming's approval, support of the project. So essentially, that resolution just establishes report from the city for the Chisago County HRA EDA, alerted them that the city is behind this project and that they should, that the actual applicant should receive that funding at that low interest rate for the duration of the project. There are the different identified within the memo in regards to the findings on that have been discussed. And with that, I can turn it over to Ms. Hewitt to kind of talk about some of the TIF and financials.
Thank you. Again, similar analysis as to the senior housing project that we just walked through. This one being a 72-unit workforce housing project is a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms, so slightly larger unit size to, again, account for the families that would be occupying that space. The total development budget's about $25.38 million. And that does include, again, construction costs of about 16.6, and then similar professional fees, developer fees, acquisition of the property. They have a fairly large capital stack of sources of funding to finance this project, which is not uncommon for this type of project that does require multiple funding sources. Again, they are requesting tax increment assistance, and the actual amount and determination for the need for assistance would come subject to award of the other funding sources and verification of that need. Based on the initial value estimates of about $13 million for at project completion, this project is projected to generate just under $900,000 of total tax increment revenues over 26 years. And would equate to about $356,000 on a present value basis at 6%. So again, the resolution of support includes up to $356,000 that could be pledged, again, subject to award of other funding and actual determination of need. Similarly to the other project, this one does include what the income and the rent limits would be for the project, and it would comply with the requirements for a housing district with the qualifying tenants. It would require that annual certification for those units. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have relative to the tax increment financing or analysis.
Thank you. Member Onstad.
No questions.
Member Schilling.
No questions.
Member Yeager.
No questions, same speech as before.
Member Luker.
No questions.
And I have no questions. I do, well, actually, I should say I do have a question. Mr. Linwood, you and I and Grant and Nancy from the HRA, County HRA EDA, we typically go out and we meet with businesses every year. And so what you're finding when I can't be there, what are you hearing what are you hearing from these businesses and why this is important?
Yeah, I think there is a piece of that labor supply. That's something that we're hearing in regards to the housing, and a lot of our base with here in the community is manufacturing, and there are some really great jobs, but some of those jobs may be starting line workers at different places, and probably our lowest houses in the community are probably in the 300s, and that's difficult for someone that's starting out. So I think this allows something like this. This is, it's something a few of our different manufacturers in the city have stated that excited about potential for housing like this, is they think it'll help with that labor, because like I said, right now the job market is difficult in retaining and attracting people, and then also to have people close within proximity to the city, and that labor force is big too. So we definitely hear that usually with our business interviews or business visits, that's something that is always a labor, and things like this is something that people ask about. That's one of our questions, as far as availability and affordability of housing within the community for people. It's something that comes up, and so I think this is definitely this type of housing. Like I said, it brings us more to that variety of housing within the city, and something that will definitely be helpful for our businesses and manufacturers, and it doesn't even for the hospital. I think not even to say it has to be a manufacturing
Right.
business. We have a lot of different types types of,
Regal machine,
obviously,
people coming out
jobs.
of high school, all
Right,
that kind of
right,
stuff.
all through the city, yep.
Okay, awesome. I think that's all the questions that I have. Oh, no, I shouldn't say that. Same with permits and water and sewer fee and all that, that's all kind of
Correct,
the
they
same
would still
thing?
be, right, to have to pay the normal building fees, the water and sewer fees, and then the park dedication fees, correct.
Okay, and what is that based off of? The 13 million?
So it's gonna be on the permit value of the actual building, so that's what
Okay.
they'll do that, and then the calculation that we use for whack and stack permits is actually through the Met, same as the Met councils, and then our park dedication fees is based on the density and the units within that, potential apartment building, so, both of these projects, you'd be probably looking at anywhere it's close to $1 million in permit fees each.
That comes into the city,
That would be coming into the city if they were to go forward.
if they were to go forward,
And it would be approved. We have a long ways to get there, but
yeah.
the potential.
And I do believe this is the third one coming before us?
The fourth one.
The fourth one?
Well,
And
the first senior, we've had,
first senior,
we've
but
had-
third.
We've had the workforce housing before, so,
Yeah,
since-
okay.
yep.
All right. Member Schilling, were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, just the building permit alone on the 13 million is 102,000. That doesn't include any of the other fees that we collect. And then 90,000 something on the other one, so.
All right, so we need a motion to approve Resolution 240763, a resolution expressing support for the proposed use of tax increment financing for affordable housing project by Reuter Walton Development LLC. I'll make that first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by, second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So approved. Number 23, to consider a resolution 240764, a resolution regarding the support of a housing trust fund application in connection with Reuter Walton Development LLC. So we just heard this. Do you need anything else on that?
Yeah, this is essentially just like I talked about, that 20-year loan at 1% from the Chisago County HRA trust fund of the $200,000, and this is just essentially stating to the HRED that you are in support of the project and the utilization of those funds that they're gonna give the developer if they were to receive the MHA financing.
Okay. Anybody have a question?
Nope.
Yeah.
How many
Go ahead.
families will this possibly bring in?
It is a 72-unit apartment, based on, I apologize, I need to look at the breakup here, I just need to slide back up within the packet.
Just had it pulled up.
So it looks like you have, I think what they've, if you look at page 131 of the packet, they kind of go through the 1-bedroom being 1.5 people, a 2-bedroom being 3, a 3-bedroom being 4.5, and a 4-bedroom being 6. That's based on those averages. I would need to look at the numbers here of those, each of those. If you want to give me, if you give me a minute, I can probably
Well, my
add those up.
next question would be, it helps with the school funding too, doesn't it? Because
I would assume some of these families would have, with children with an apartment like this, so yeah, you certainly would probably look at, I'm sure some of them would choose to utilize the local school district.
which is right across the street, I believe.
Correct, yeah, if they do have elementary aged children, yes.
Okay. All right. I will make the first motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So approved. We did 24 already on the agenda. We're going to number 25 to consider resolution 230766, a resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing advertisements for bids of Railroad Park Phase 2. Yay! All right, Mr. McFarland.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and members of council, city staff and the engineers of WSB have continued to work on the Railroad Park project, and specifically now Phase 2. As you can recall, Phase 1, which is completed, was the Veterans Memorial portion of that project, with the second phase now being largely that history walk. The memo provided by WSB goes into all different aspects of what's included in the second phase, from the kiosks to lighting and bench pads as well. With all that being said, WSB has prepared plans and specifications, which can be seen on the following pages in your packet. And staff is requesting approval for the plans and specifications and authorization to advertise for bids to be published on July 11th.
Okay. All right, questions by council. Let's start with Member Yeager.
The financing, are there still enough donations left to cover the entire cost of Phase 2?
We currently are at, enough for
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Member Luker.
No questions.
Member Onstad.
No questions.
Member Schilling.
No questions.
all I'm gonna say is I'm excited to get this done. So, I mean, our Veterans Memorial looks absolutely amazing, and to have this really brings everybody together. So, I wanna thank the, Park Advisory Board for really just kind of getting this done. So, we need a motion to approve Resolution 230766, a resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing advertisement for bids for Railroad Park for, Phase 2. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 26, to consider approving a license agreement between Chisago County and the City of Wyoming to allow the installation and operation of radio antennas and associated equipment on the North Wyoming Water Tower for the County Public Safety Communication Network. Mr. Linwood?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. If you do remember, in 2018, we did demolish the water tower that was on the corner of 267th and Felton. That's where this existing equipment lived up until then. So the equipment was essentially on top of that tower as far as communication for the Chisago County Public Safety Network. And then if you can see, there's still within the packet too, there is a photo of the small existing building there along with a generator and then a propane tank. So with this agreement, the county feels that for the good of not only the city, but the county and those communication systems through public safety, that they would like to put those back up on the north tower, where essentially that they would put that to our spec on that tower and install it, and then you'd have that existing small building along with the generator and potentially the propane tank existing outside of that north tower, and that would be located per the instruction of the City of Wyoming on that, where we would have them put that just to make sure that doesn't interfere with any of our normal operations, which we don't anticipate it to. The agreement has been reviewed by staff and by our legal counsel, and we are in agreement and believe that this is for the best of the county and public safety to make sure that those communications are working appropriately, and they feel that this will bolster some of those signals that they utilize for the 800 megahertz radio system and to communicate. So that's essentially what it's for.
Okay. I'm all about public safety and the communication. My only question would be, some of those other antennas we have up there, I believe they rent, right? Or they, so will the, huh?
I think they're under lease, aren't they?
So will the
Correct.
county be, will it be the same for the county?
Correct. On this, when we kind of look at that, and most communities look at it for the greater good of the city and the county as a whole, so we would not charge them an actual lease fee like we would if it was a T-Mobile or Verizon or something like that. We do on those, that we would utilize that, but in this case, no, we would not look for that. We did review that as a staff and kind of look at other communities, what they were doing, if that was the norm on this, but that was essentially what we found, that was more just looked at as a working cooperative relationship amongst public safety and the entities in the county, and just allowing that equipment up there as long as they're attaching it appropriately to our spec and
Yeah, okay.
doing everything they're supposed to.
Can we trade this for a flashing crosswalk over here? Can we do a little trade? Do you think Joe would be okay with that?
There you go.
No?
I don't know. We could.
I don't know, we need to ask, right? Might as well. All right, any other questions? Let's start with Member Luker,
No questions.
Member Onstad.
I was going to ask if there are other antennas up there and if this would prevent that, but it sounds like there are antennas already.
Yeah, and essentially these, especially the new one, has been designed to really be able to, with the size of that tower, and it was designed with modern day, I guess, attachment techniques and how we do those as far as the city spec. So it really, there's bountiful room up there and really won't be any problem.
The agreement also provides that they're not going to interfere, and if there's an issue, they'll work with us. So it is in there that they're not gonna interfere, but I don't think that's a concern at all that it would happen.
If they do interfere, do we climb up there and take it down?
We would ask them,
We'd
give
ask
them
them to
notice,
go get- okay,
we would give
just
them
trying
notice
to-
that there's something not appropriately.
Yeah.
We wouldn't anticipate needing to do this. The agreement does
Yeah.
allow either party to terminate upon
Oh, okay.
notice. So theoretically, if it was an issue and they weren't cooperative, we could terminate. Upon termination, they are required to remove under the contract. Again, these are all hypotheticals that we
Yeah.
really are in there for our protection, but we really don't anticipate that we would need, given the relationship with them.
I was gonna say, we're good partners, and they're good partners with us, so. All right, Member Schilling
No questions.
and Member Yeager.
What took them 6 years?
I think that they have had some changes in regards to their emergency operations employees, so I think that was a piece of it. They actually approached us last year on this, and it's just taken time to get an agreement back to us and have it reviewed. We didn't see an agreement for quite some time, so in regards to that duration, I can't speak exactly why, but it's here now, and we think, like I said, it's for the betterment of communication, so I think it's good, but we're not sure what the duration of time lapse.
Just curious,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
long
I
time
wish I
since it
had
came
a better,
down.
I wish I had a better answer, but you're right, it has been a minute.
Well, and haven't things changed in terms of radio systems and stuff that, I mean, it's coming, that things are gonna be changing with radio systems eventually,
Yeah,
so.
I don't know if the 27 updates would have anything that would impact this at all, the installation. I just think it gives better redundancy, I would think. I'm not a radio
Yeah.
expert, but I would think that having this on there gives redundancy within the system for those communications, and that we don't maybe lose in some of our buildings. I know sometimes you can lose
Mhm.
some of the quality of that system, so maybe this gives a little stronger
Sure,
communication push out, I guess.
okay, fabulous. All right, we need a motion to approve a license agreement between Chisago County and the city of Wyoming. Do we have we have a motion to approve by member Onstead. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Schilling, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Council reports, we are gonna start with member Yeager.
Oh, no report. Thank you guys for always coming, and thank you all for watching.
Member Luger.
I have no report. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Member Onstead.
No report, but I checked out the dog park many times and it gets 2 paws up.
Member Schilling.
No report, thank you for those that came and any of those watching this evening, so.
All right, my report is from the League of Minnesota Cities, which we attended last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Always great information about how to make our city better, and then also how to really get along with the public, and, you know, so, then we also, it's a great time with other mayors to really get a good idea what they're doing and how we can take stuff back here. So always appreciative that we're able to do that. Next year it's in Duluth, so if anybody else wants to join us, that would be great. It's a good time. And then also, I cannot end this meeting without saying happy retirement to our Park Advisory Chair, Mr. Spangler. So congratulations. We do expect you here more at City Hall, working more hours
There it is.
on this, but no, just kidding. We're very happy for you and excited for that, so congratulations. All right, with that, we need a
Mayor,
motion.
I'm
Huh?
sorry, I apologize to interrupt you again tonight.
Yeah, it's all good.
We have Engineer Erickson had an update about the 2024 street project that he wanted to share with council.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. As you're aware, you authorized the advertisement for bids. We expect bids back on July 31st and bringing that back to the city council meeting on August 6th for consideration of award. As we're working through this process, I always advertise and talk to contractors and share with them our project, and there's some that are very excited about this and indicated they're gonna hit it pretty hard and excited about the project, is gonna fit their schedule well. I've also talked to quite a few other contractors that says, boy, you know what, the way this year is going with all the rain, we're trying to figure out how we're gonna finish the existing backlog that we do have. And so my question to the council is, in our specifications, do we want to create some more competition by saying, you know, you can start the project this year, but don't necessarily have to finish this year? If we are concerned that that might preclude, you know, if we were to able to say you have to have it completed by the end of October, would it preclude some contractors from bidding? Do we want to work into the contract documents some flexibility for work this year and next year? And so it might provide better bid results, more competition if we go that approach, particularly on the urban section with the concrete curb and gutter. I know that in the fall that always tends to be one of the areas that is a critical path item that kind of hangs up a project a little bit. And so I think we'll find a contractor that is willing to do that, and we're gonna bid it aggressively, we hope. But I think more competition certainly helps drive those prices down. And so I just want to make sure I understand council's opinion on that matter and make sure that we meet your expectations. But if there is an idea that you feel it's appropriate to allow a little more flexibility in the project schedule, it might provide a little more competition.
What does, when you say finish, what, that's really a broad term. So
Yeah.
what are you, what are you thinking that would be, just the concrete curbs? Or are you thinking the road doesn't have the asphalt on it?
So
you
I
know?
think if we were to, in my mind, what I feel, what might attract more contractors is if we were to say, you may complete, like a portion of the project, where we would absolutely not allow it to be gravel over the winter. Our public works staff would literally kill me, I'm sure. So we would, perhaps if they're feeling, boy, they just don't have time to get the urban section done, right, with the portion with the curb and gutter, they could tackle, the rural section and get that completed. It's simply removing the pavement and paving for the most part, right? So there's no question that the amount of time that we have, they could finish the project. It's just the amount of competition, the amount of bidders will likely expand just based on what I'm hearing, feedback from contractors. And so we would, again, provide them that flexibility, but we would have some performance specifications that would say, if you do start this area, you have to finish it. So
Okay.
there'd be a total number of working days, but I think, I feel comfortable doing that. I just want to make sure council feels comfortable doing that. I still think that we're probably going to find someone that's going to come in, hit it hard because they need the work this year and they're going to get it all done. But I think just that additional competition, I think, would help our pricing. And so that would be my recommendation, but I'm certainly open to council thoughts and opinions on
Yeah.
that.
So how does that work in terms of when we pay? Right, so let's say hypothetically, they just do one part this year, they leave the rest to next year. How do those residents, how does that work for payment?
Oh, so you're not saying payment to the contractor, you're saying payment for the assessments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
an assessment.
So oftentimes, we do have assessments in other communities. It's not required that you have it following a project. A lot of communities will assess in advance of the improvement project. And the theory behind that with other communities is they may assess in advance of the project to understand, are there going to be a lot of appeals? And a lot of the communities that we represent actually do assess in advance of the project. They hold their assessment hearing in advance of the project. So that would be something that we could discuss and try to understand a little bit better, but that's my experience in other communities as well.
All right, any other questions
All right,
besides
so
mine?
to reiterate, you are not going to leave anything half-finished.
Right, we don't want to, we might get to a position where we maybe have the base course down and not have the wearing course down, the both layers of asphalt, things like that. But it will be a hard surface, will be a requirement of the contract.
And if you don't have the wear course down, will all plow trucks kind of like mess it up?
No, they will not, yeah. We're talking, if we put the curb and gutter down, we would want both layers or it ramped, so we protect that curb and gutter so that's not being damaged by the plow trucks.
All right, so what you're looking for tonight is council opinion on this, so you can go ahead and.
Just consensus, I think, is that,
Consensus.
I think that would
that's
be,
fine?
I think that'd be appropriate. I think it was something that we felt was appropriate to bring to council. In regards to that, I think we're fairly confident that we will receive good bids throughout this, but just I think with Mr. Erickson sharing about some of those contractors with the difficulty of the rain this season, that we would just want to ensure that we've always received good prices, and I think maybe this is in a way hedging our bet a little bit by allowing some flexibility within that bid. Ideally, it's done this late summer and into the fall, but may allow us some flexibility to make sure that we're getting essentially the best prices that we certainly can for not only the city, but our residents as well.
How does this affect the bonding?
It would be a discussion with the bond council in regards to the timing, so it'll be something that we talked about. We just kind of started in discussion on this today, so we do have a designated timeline right now for the bond, for the sale, so we have essentially different calls and things like that, and ratings with Moody's. So it's something that I'll share with them in regards to it. We'll still probably move forward with it. What we did have tonight, if you remember on the consent agenda, we did have the reimbursement resolution, so we probably wouldn't receive the actual funds from this bond sale until September as is. So really, as long as we just indicated that through the feasibility and actually the direction of the council, we're gonna do the whole project, it really wouldn't affect any of that, because we still have the duration and full project to do.
And then for the restoration, does that then go out another year? Like if half the project is done in '25, they have till '26 to make sure everything, 70% of everything grows back?
Yeah, I would, again, knock on wood, we've had a couple of really tough years. This would be a great year to grow anything, of course. But we don't have grass down, right, or seed down right now. So, no, they would, I think if we started this year or we start a project very early in the spring next year, we'd have everything 70% vegetated next year in 2025. In either case, it wouldn't be this fall, but it would be next spring for both scenarios.
Okay.
All right, so I'll say each member's name, kind of let us know what you're thinking of. So we'll start with Member Luker.
Yep, works for me.
Okay, Member Onstead,
Sounds good.
Member Schilling,
Good to go.
okay, Member Yeager.
Okay.
All right, looks like you got your consensus.
Thank you.
All right, so again, last agenda item is to actually adjourn. Anybody wish to adjourn, or would we like to stay going on? Anybody else? Motion, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, I was gonna have you guys wait. Okay, we have a second.